Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to RCI TV for round 2 of the Lamborghini Super Cup. We've gone from the sunny skies of Kyalami in South Africa all the way over to the United Kingdom, and the rain has greeted us in force. It's been blowing a gale out in the real world at Silverstone today, and it is blowing a gale out here in the sim as well. Welcome along to the stream. We're going to have GT3 and Super Trofeo Lamborghini action on show for you here tonight. My name is Ryan Gill. I'll be your lead host. We have Jake Boswell behind the cameras as usual on Mondays, and I'm joined by a very special guest for the second round of the Lamborghini Super Cup. It's the Porsche Meister himself, commentating on a series that doesn't have Porsches in it. It's Stewie Heilman.
Hello, and hello, Ryan. Yeah, this is quite the unusual champ for me because I don't think I've ever sat in a Lamborghini, so you're gonna have to hold my hand a bit here on how these cars behave, especially in these, let's call them interesting conditions. As we can see, the rain is gonna be stronger. I haven't quite checked what day it is at the moment, but I'm pretty sure we will see rain in the qualifying. So yeah, this is gonna be a pretty interesting race. We have 30 cars on the track, 34 even. And yeah, with the mix of GT3s and STs, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see some crazy racing today.
We definitely saw some crazy racing out at Kyalami. It was a very, very great shot that we had going down towards the second corner, and I hope we'll get a few more good shots as well. I assume the Maggots and Beckett's shots will look amazing from the start, as long as everyone keeps it clean. It was relatively clean, should we say, for a grid 40 or so cars last time out. We have a few sign-outs for this evening, and of course there will be a few less cars than there was on the grid at Kyalami, but that will not stop us from having a great race. So if you are new to the series, well, here's basically the rundown as it goes. We have 2 car classes on track here tonight. They are the GT3 Lamborghinis, and that is the Evo variant, so Lamborghini Huracan Evo. And then we have the Super Trofeos, a Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo GT model. They are slightly slower versions of the Huracan GT3, and they are equal in terms of performance as well. So they're kind of like a spec series, whereas the Lamborghini GT3 kind of just works on the GT3 regulations from GT World Challenge, but of course kind of running in a cup series for this occasion. So there is no difference between the cars for people that are in the same car class, but we have multiple skill levels on display here today. The white box with a black number indicates the pro drivers. The grey box with a white number indicates the silver drivers. And then the red box with black numbers indicates the amateur and rookie level drivers. We have pros and AMs in the Super Trofeos. We have pros, silvers, AMs, and rookies in the GT3. There is 6 total different skill classes across the 2 car classes that we have here tonight. And of course, that does mean that there is quite a variation between lap times between the front and back of the field, but they are competing for overall position within their class. We'll get onto the points and how all that works a bit later on as we get towards the end of practice here. But as the rain continues to fall, it is Jordan Daly that leads out the practice session so far, 1:59.0, but that lap time was set in the dry before the rain started to come down. No one will have been improving on their lap times in these conditions. And something that Stewie just slightly tipped on is the day of the week. It is Friday for practice, Saturday for qualifying, and then it's Sunday for the race. And it's important to remember that the race and qualifying take place at different times of the day. Qualifying taking place at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The race is 7 in the morning, so there'll be a very big difference in track temperature that the drivers have had all week to prepare for as well.
And while we wait for the last cars to finish their practice laps and go out into their qualifying, can you give me a little catch up on what we saw in the previous races?
Well, in round 1 at Kyalami, it was in the GT3 class at least. we had Abeladze completely storming the field and got a little close and touch and go at the end. They took the lead quite dominantly, as you would have expected after seeing the lap time they pulled out at the end of the qualifying session. But they did manage to bag pole position, the win, and fastest lap. So a complete hat trick for Abeladze to start off the season. In the Super Trofeo class, it was very much a similar thing for Wolf Matuszka. Got pole position, the race win, and fastest lap of the race. But it was a bit of a scrappy race for some of the Super Trofeos. They didn't have a great start to the race, and they had their work cut out for them as well. Mikhail Sanstruck came back from serving a drive-through penalty early on in the race to get second in the Super Trofeo class. So he had a very, very good race, despite the fact that he did make a couple of mistakes and get some penalties thrown his way. So those are the two, should we say, contenders and kind of what happened in round one. We are into qualifying, and you may have noticed that qualifying was 21 minutes long. There's a good reason for that. We'll basically go over it now. You have a 21-minute session. The first 10 minutes of that session are reserved for the Super Trofeo drivers only. They're the cars that you can see out on track at the moment. They have 10 minutes to go out and set a lap time. If they start a lap time outside of that 10-minute window, they will be told to return to the pit lane, and if they do not do so, they will be disqualified from qualifying. The 1-minute window that you have in the middle of qualifying is just to allow that little bit of overlap. If someone starts a lap just before the end of their session, it gives them enough time to finish it without interfering with the second set of cars that will be released onto the circuit. And that second set is, of course, the Lamborghini GT3 Evos. So we have the Super Trofeos going first. When it comes to 11 minutes left of the session, they will be starting their final lap or finishing up their final laps. And then once we have 10 minutes left of the session, we will see the GT3s go out on track. And we do have live stewards watching over qualifying here today to make sure that everyone behaves themselves and only goes out in their dedicated slot. We had 2 cars disqualified last week, and I'll be hoping that we don't have any disqualified in qualifying it this week.
And also, if you look at the sky, it's not raining anymore. So we can put our umbrellas back into the corner, take off the jackets, and enjoy a dry qualifying. So the time, what was the time that Daly said? I think it was a 59.0.
59.0. Yeah, it was 1:59.091 was the lap time set by Jordan Daly. That was in some kind of cool, dry session towards the start of practice. And of course, it didn't stay that way for long. We did see the rain arrive before we went live on air. We're currently on board with Andy Boardman in the number 69. This is a driver that I kind of spoke to Josh about this last week. He's a driver that's always been in and around at the front of the field, but has never really, had the chance to grasp a championship by the hands and really take it into his stride. We thought he might do that, and really throw himself into championship contention last week after he got a fantastic start. But then he did rack up some penalties over the course of the race and went for a spin as well, and that rather ruined Andy Boardman's chances of leading the championship early on in this series. So he'll be hoping for a much better performance out here today at Silverstone, and we'll be hoping that he does much better as well. And coming into the final couple of corners now, he is the first Super Trofeo out there setting a quick lap time. He's got a car slightly in front of him. That's the number 42, which is on an out lap, but this car should give him a little bit of a tow as they come up towards the start-finish straight. Shouldn't help him too much, but maybe just a little. And Andy Boardman crosses the line. It's a 2:04.8 dead, and that's not a bad lap time for Andy Boardman to start it out, but he will be looking for better as the session goes on. The drivers, I think, that will be important to look out for will be Mikhail Sanstruck and Wolf Matuszka, because they are looking to be the big pace setters for the Pro Super Trofeos.
And I'm curious to see if these the fast guys in the Super Trofeos, can they actually hold up to the amp pace in the GT3 cars? I don't know if maybe Silverstone is different than Kalam in that sense, but I would expect the grid to be a bit mixed. Did you see that in the last races already, or is that like just a few seconds off?
In qualifying, in qualifying, all of the GT3s that did a valid lap were in front of the Super Trofeos. However, when it came to the race, it was a bit of a different story. Of course, some of the GT3s had problems, but at the start of the race, we did actually see some of the Super Trofeo cars, like Wolf Matuszka and Mikhail Sanstruck, making moves for position on GT3 cars that were in their way. So, I mean, in qualifying, I would expect all the GT3s to be ahead of the Super Trofeos, unless someone has a particularly poor qualifying. But as far as the race goes, I think it will get mixed up a bit, as a couple of people do have incidents and penalties come their way.
Interesting. I mean, there's a few more GT3s than STs, but the track is big enough, so in theory, everyone should have enough space to put in a good lap. As we see Darbour here put in a lap and on P5. But the gap from P1 to P2 is quite big at the moment. 1.6 seconds. Obviously, Matuszka, I think that was his second lap already, but yeah, I mean, they have to close the gap a bit if they want to keep up here. Even Boardman putting in a faster lap, 1.5 seconds behind Matuszka. So it seems like he's just way faster than the rest of the grid at the moment.
I think Wolf Matuszka is expected to be the quickest driver out in the Super Trofeo class. I don't think there's any doubt about that at this point in time. Mikhail Sanstruck, obviously a very quick driver, and so is Alexander Guglia. But I would like to think that if it came down to one-on-one race, it would be Wolf Matuszka that would come out on top. It's not to discredit the likes of Mikhail Sanstruck, Alexander Guglia, and all the other Super Trofeo drivers. It's just that, well, Wolf Matuszka has quite a reputation for being very, very quick, and he's very good at setups as well. And he's actually been providing his setups for the season to all the Super Trofeo drivers. So the Super Trofeo AM drivers have been taking on his setups, and I'm sure that has made the car a lot more bearable, should we say, for some of the AM drivers. And this is not a particularly easy car to drive, and having a very nice setup that is pretty planted and pretty safe is something that I'm sure a lot of them can appreciate. And it's nice to see Wolf Matuszka. I think he knows he's quicker than everyone. So just being the nice guy, sharing the setup, trying to make it easier for everyone else around him, and he's enjoying himself out here at the moment, and he currently leads the qualifying session and the fight for pole position in the Super Trofeo class by 1.5 seconds.
Yeah, that has to be some confidence to provide the setup to essentially all your opponents and still lead by 1.5 seconds, and be sure that you're gonna win the races. And if I'm seeing that correctly, we don't have any silver drivers in the Super Trofeo class, but Les Stevenson is actually in front of one of the pro drivers. So it seems like those setups from Matuszka maybe have an impact here. And I think there's only one... Yeah, there's only Baranowski who hasn't set a valid lap yet. But I think he is on a valid lap at the moment. So we're going to see in just a moment where he's going to end up. In the meantime, Stevenson, I don't think he's going to improve on that lap. And no, he did not. So, yeah, Baranowski coming into the last corners. Hard to tell where he's going to come out. Just making the turn. I really should open a track map to see actually Lafield. That's the name. Coming across the turn on the straight, and it's going to be P8. Okay.
So Baranowski throws himself up into the middle of the AM pack. I think the time disparity between drivers is a bit more obvious at the moment, because we do have a few sign-outs, as mentioned. Only 11 Super Trofeos available for tonight's race of the 18 that we have across the championship. And we did actually, I think Chris Rubilar actually has unfortunately had to sign out for the season. I did see that earlier. So we won't get to see Chris Rubilar in the Super Trofeo class this season, unfortunately. We'll get to see Joe Dorber, though, who didn't have a bad showing last time out at Kyle Army, and is currently behind Les Stephenson and crosses the line. Does improve on their lap time, but doesn't improve enough to jump ahead of the AM driver, and he'll be starting 5th in the Super Trofeo class, but behind the pole sitter for the AM class. Not ideal for him. Andy Boardman crosses the line, does not improve. Mikhail Sanstruck is still out there on the track, and he is up on his lap time by a considerable margin as well. So if Wolf Matuszka doesn't improve, it could be that Mikhail Sanstruck could challenge him for that provisional pole. But here comes Wolf Matuszka over the line. What is it going to be? It is an improvement. It's a 2:02.5 for Wolf Matuszka. That sends him 1.7 seconds clear of Andy Boardman, 1.8 clear of Mikhail Sundström. Now, coming through the final sector, he's up on his lap time, but he's up by only about a second. He's lost time out of Luffield. Comes through now up towards the line, will improve, throws himself onto the front row for the Super Trofeo field, but he's still 9/10 of a second off of Wolf Matuszka's lap time, and it seems, to me at least, Stewie, that the gap between Wolf Matuszka and Mikhail Sundström is much bigger here at Silverstone than it was at Kyle Army, and that has actually surprised me quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, 1 second between P1 and P2, and then almost another second to P3. That's quite the margin. So I guess we will see the first 3 in the race just spread out immediately, and maybe not even fight at all, at least if the qualifying pace is translating over to the race. One thing I'm a bit surprised about, maybe it's just my bad memory, wasn't Baranowski usually also one of our pro drivers, or are there multiple with the same name?
It is the Thomas Baranowski that we usually do have higher up, but Thomas Baranowski, as far as I have seen him occasionally in the pro class, but as far as I'm aware, he's a bit more towards the silver portion of the field. The AM class that we have in the Super Trofeos is kind of, it's not divided, but it kind of consists of low silvers and AMs, and then the pro class is high silvers and pros. So Baranowski, from what we saw in the pre-qualifying that all the drivers had to attend, Thomas Baranowski was just on the second half of the field, so he fit down in towards the AM category, and he hasn't taken pole in the AM class. It's actually gone to Stevenson, and by quite a margin as well, 7/10 of a second. Very impressive by the 46. We'll have to see if they can carry that pace on in towards the race. The GT3s are out on track, though. You've been watching the onboard here for Nico Kumpu. He's in the silver class for the Lamborghini GT3s, and he'll be hoping to put on a good performance this time around. It was John Aracer that took the flag first for the silver class a week ago for the GT3s, and he's out on track at the moment, the 699 as well, so we'll have to see what he can do at this point in the race. But so far, we'll carry on with Nico Kumpu. Just going on to the front splitter here, you can see the height, the anti-cut curbs on the inside of the corners here at Silverstone. You've got to be careful to not pick up track limits around here. It's pretty easy to do. This is another one of those corners where you can easily invalidate a lap in qualifying and pick up a bit of extra time in the race, which can count towards a track cut. We'll talk more about track limits and possible penalties later on in the race. But Nico Kumpu comes into the stadium section and isn't looking too bad at the moment for the number 6. The Lamborghini is not the easiest car to drive around here at Silverstone. It's not one of its preferred circuits, but Nico Kumpu looking pretty solid in the Lamborghini right now as we come on to the back straight. That's the number 30 car behind them at this stage in the session. Just trying to figure out who the 30 is. That's Daniel Ricciardo, actually, one of the RCI stewards who is racing in this championship. just behind them. The pros obviously out as well. We'll get on to what lap times they will be able to do. But out of Luffield we go, and Nico Kumput will set the first lap of the GT3 qualifying session. Up towards the line we go. Where will it be? 159.4 by Nico Kumput to start out the session. 4/10 off of what Jordan Daly achieved in practice, and Andre Verona has immediately gone quicker, and then we're into the 58 straight away with Bazagi setting a 58.893. So we've beaten what we've done in practice already with the first set of laps from the GT3s.
And interestingly enough, if we look at the track map, there's so much space on the track, but they're kind of all in like 2 sectors. So maybe some of them not having the space they might have wanted. And Tibor Waskamp also putting in a fast lap on P3, and then who was that? Karate, I think, who just put in a faster lap than the number 8, only by slight margin, but fast nonetheless. And something that just came to my mind when watching Nico Kumpu. There's some drivers, like for example Nico Kumpu, that I just have branded in my mind with like one specific car. For him, it's the Ferrari. So it's always interesting to see these single-make championships and seeing drivers that you usually only see in one car, and then see them drive something completely different. Like if I was in this championship, for example, that would be even weird for me to see.
Yeah, I mean, well, you are known for driving that. You did drive the Nissan though, didn't you, in the Untitled Championship that used the older cars, was it?
Yeah, but that was kind of a team effort decision, because I wanted to drive with Alex Rogers, and he didn't want to drive the Porsche. I didn't want to drive the Aston, and so we settled on the Nissan.
Interesting way to meet in the middle, but whatever floats your boat. Nico Kumpu, by the way, has just come back around and improved on their lap time. It's a 1:58.6 now, and that puts them provisional pole as a silver driver, which is very unusual to see, but we'll have to see what the rest of the pros can do around this time out. Our previous pole sitter at Kyalami, Abeladze, has still not set a valid lap time. We'll await to see what they can do at this stage in the race, or in qualifying, sorry. They are on an invalid lap at the moment. So they did start a lap, but they have since invalidated it. So we'll have to wait and see what they can do. Jordan Daly, who is looking good in practice, also hasn't set a lap time yet, but he is out on lap at the moment, and it is valid. So we'll see what the practice pace setter can do. Meanwhile, the rest of the silver class, it is Roskam who's put himself onto the front row of the grid as well. Then we have the winner from last week in the silver class, Eraser, all the way down in 4th. 8th overall, though. Not bad for him so far. And then Putizen, actually, in the 273, clear ahead in the AM class of the competition at this point in time. But there is still just over 2.5 minutes of the session to go. A couple more laps that these guys can get in. We'll have to see how many of them can improve on those lap times as well.
And Abeladze has... Oh, you mentioned he was on an invalid lap, so he only has, this lap and maybe another one to get up to speed here. And checking the timing tower, a lot of the drivers are still in the green, so we haven't seen the end of the... let's say the top 10 yet, as Jordan Daly comes across the line and puts himself into P7. And the classes seem a bit mixed at the moment. We have 2 silvers leading, and then 3 pros, and then the M you already mentioned, with a blazing time compared to his competition. And a lot of the guys in the back seem to still have some time in there, so they could still mix up the field. As Bazagi just put in a faster lap, and he must be slightly fuming right now that he didn't get the pole. Couldn't be much closer. It couldn't be much closer, but I'm
missing out.
I'm sure you can find those 6,000 of a second.
6,000ths of a second. Bazagi has missed out on provisional pole so far. Quarati, by the way, is coming around the final corner. and up towards the timing line. They were up by half a second on their lap time. They have since invalidated it, so they will have to go again, and this will be their final lap by. So we'll have to see what the Argentine can do. And they've gone straight on at turn 1, so that's not going to be any improvement from the Argentine, but never mind, because Andrei Verona, the Ukrainian, has thrown his car into provisional pole by a tenth of a second. It's a 1:58.527. And there it is from last week's pole sitter, Abeladze. 1 lap on the board in the session with under a minute to go and has thrown it on pole as well, provisionally at least, but a 1:58.386. I have to say, for someone who didn't get a banker lap down in early in the session for what is a very short slot for qualifying, that is impressive to just go out there and set that kind of lap time.
Maybe it was all a strategy for him. He was just testing out the track limits, how fast he can go through the corners, and like not giving the competition any clue what his pace is. Kind of let them be safe in their position as we see Kumpu come across the line, and he is up on his time, but I don't think it will be enough for the pole. It won't be, but it puts him into P2. I'm not sure if... Verona is still on a valid lap, so even P2 for him is not safe yet. But yeah, maybe it was just strategy for Abeladze here. Maybe he was just unlucky. He definitely put in the lap time that he needed. As we're seeing more and more cars come across the line. Still a lot of the drivers in the green delta. So we will see a few more shifts here in the positions as most of the drivers just finished their last lap. We have Latinen here come across the line. I think he's also up by just a bit, but I don't think it will be enough to actually get a position. It's also very close to Jordan Daly here. What is that? 1/100th of a second?
It's not too much at all. But this man right here, Stewie, he set a blazing lap already, and he's up on his lap time again. Has pretty much already got pole, because the only person that could challenge him would be Jordan Daly, but I doubt Jordan Daly's got an extra second in the lap that he's setting right now. Here comes Abeladze up towards the timing line. Will it be an improvement? Yes, it will. 1:58.2. And that should secure pole position for the second race running for Abeladze. We'll keep an eye on what's going on throughout the rest of the field. Matthew Kingston Lee, who was struggling in qualifying, comes across the line, the 555, to throw themselves 8th, and that is 3rd in the silver class overall. Came in clutch towards the end when they needed to. Danielle Ricciardo at the moment as well in the AM class, coming around the final corner. He's got Jordan Daly just behind him as well, who is up on his time. I can see it's just about 0.2 of a second. How much will he make it when he comes up towards the line? Well, Jordan Daly does not improve on his time, so unless that was invalid from the start, and there you have it, Abeladze will take pole position. We've got a silver driver on the front row of the grid, surprisingly enough. Andrei Verona and Basagi will fill out the second row. Ross Kammer-Butisen on the third row. Parati, Matthew Kingston, Lee on the fourth row of the grid. And then it is Sontag and Eraser, who was the winner in the silver class last week at Kyalami, will round out the top 10 in the GT3 class.
And we've seen Verona, I think he was up on his lap time, but he might have invalidated it or just lost it somewhere, which, yeah, and led to Kampu staying on P2. And yeah, still at the end of the qualifying session, we see all the colors kind of mixed around here, which is that something that we saw on Kyalami as well, or is that more like a thing now?
We definitely saw this at Kyalami, but the interesting thing to me, at least, is that we have different drivers that are further up the field than we had at Kyalami. It definitely seems to be, maybe down to track preference. This is something we do talk about a lot, a lot of times. Some drivers just run really well at certain tracks. And, I can kind of vouch for that myself. I like Kyalami a lot. I think I've run quite well at Kyalami. Put me on somewhere like Hungaroring, and, I mean, you're going to get rookie lap times out of me. I'm not that good at all. Doesn't matter what car I'm in. So, I think definitely the track is definitely playing a part to it. We have, quite an interesting calendar as well. Kyle Lamy, Silverstone, Spa, Paul Ricard, and Monza. So, they are all big circuits, but they're all very different from each other. So it's going to be interesting to see how, all the positions shift about over the course of the season as we go to a big variety of different tracks. But before we get into everything that is going on tonight with the race and we show you the grid in full, we have to have a look at the championship standings. And this is how it looks. We're looking at the pro drivers. And, Abeladze in the 579 is the one leading the championship. He got fastest lap, pole position, and the race win. So he's got 72 points to his name. Jordan Daly finished second in the pro class. So they're sitting on 58 points. Bazagi finished third. So they're on 53. They have Nico Koizma, Verona, and Ertan rounding out the next set of drivers. And Kurati, you might notice he's on a lot less points than the rest of the drivers around him. Had a very poor race. And I reminded you earlier that the points count for your overall position in your car class. So that means if you finish low down in the overall order, that is going to punish you against your competitors. As for the silver drivers, John Aracer led the way, of course. He has 37 points to his name, just ahead of Matthew Kingston Lee, and then Nico Kumpu is in third. Thibaut Roskam in fourth, and then Carlos Calatayud in fifth. Vlad Will and Vesa Latinen in sixth and seventh. Daniel Durrett and Tobias Sontag, who did compete last week, but didn't complete the mandatory amount of laps to classify for points. So Tobias Sontag is the only silver driver this season with no points to their name. As for the AM drivers, well, it's Masatoshi Kaneko, the Japanese driver that leads the way, 17 points to their name from Rildi Filmolter, the South African, who did quite well on home turf to get a podium, and Martin Putizen in third place with 14 points. You can see how close all the AM drivers were towards each other, as all the points are pretty much separated by 1 or 2 digits from each other. We have Rob Quantrill and Alex Hutchinson as well, followed by Andrei Lysenko, Daniel Ricciardo, Kari Happeneven, and Luis Villa Mas as well. All of the AM drivers scoring points in the first round of the season. And then for the rookie drivers, at least, the one taking the win in the rookie class and did very, very well in the rookie class as well was Mark Peters in number 27, picking up 21 points. And that gives them a 10-point lead going into the second round of the season over Hubert Horser. Then we have Michael Yakazum, Chris Humphreys, Stefan Berner, Daniel Farian, Mark Webb, and Donis Platil. And you'll notice that 4 drivers in the rookie class did not pick up points for the first round of the championship. They'll be hoping to do better here tonight. As for the Super Trofeo drivers, well, it's Wolf Matushka that leads the way in the pro class from Mikhail Sanstruck, as expected. And then we do have Alexander Guglia, who is third amongst the pro drivers, and Joe Dorber there in fourth. Andy Boardman, who had a very poor race, in fifth, only picking up 31 points. And then Chris Rubelar, who has unfortunately had to sign out. And I believe Tom Otte is not here tonight either. So we won't be seeing either of those two tonight. As for the AM class, Les Stephenson, who is on pole here for Silverstone, is... actually, no, he's not on pole, is he, for Silverstone? But he was the winner last time out at Kyle Lamy. And that's followed by Stefan Van Aken, Thomas Baranowski, and Miksa Suiminen. Tim Ireland actually came out as well and had a top 5 performance, followed by Joe Gleason, Nicholas Smith, Richard Hutchins, Ariston Bukamov, and Zamfir Radu as well, picking up some points. And that, I believe, is the entire Super Trofeo AM series. Actually, there might be Zeliko Madzo on the end of the Super Trofeo AMs. I do not believe that he attended the first round of the season. But as we will cut back to the track scenes, you'll notice that it's dry out on track, but that weather report, Stewie, it's not going to stay dry for very long. 30 minutes, or, well, less than 30 minutes time, we're going to see rain coming our way. Well, as we await to see Stewie's return, I think just a couple of technical difficulties with his microphone. The usual that we have here in the commentary box at RCI. But I think he is back now. Is it working, Stewie? Have you bashed it against the table enough?
I was talking and I was surprised you cut me off, but yeah, apparently I was still muted. Now, what I was saying is the interesting thing about the weather is that when the grid started, the rain forecast wasn't there. So most drivers were probably just looking at, okay, there's clouds, there's a lot of wind, probably there's going to be rain, and only in the last maybe 2 minutes the rainy cloud appeared. So knowing how some race preparations go sometimes, I would expect that some of these drivers may have struggled a bit to put their setup correctly on. Like maybe they weren't planning on starting with wets and they wanted to start with wets and they missed the pressure or something. So I'm expecting to see a lot of interesting things happening. Maybe like early pit stops or cars being slower than they should be. It's definitely going to be an interesting starting first 15 minutes maybe. And there's also no mandatory pit stop. So what did these drivers do? Do they start on wets and just hope they hold until the rain, or do they all do a pit stop?
I think personally you're going to have to be looking for the pit stop. I think if you started on wet tires, they'd be completely burnt out by the time that the rain arrived. And I'm pretty sure that's what we'll see. If you look on the side of the cars, actually, if you see a Pirelli sticker on the side of the tires, that means that they are using a dry tire. If you do not see a Pirelli sticker, that means that they are using a wet tire. And we can't clearly see exactly what Abeladze has on at this point in time, but I think I do see a little bit of a yellow band on that tire, so I think he is starting on dries, as I would expect all of them to start the race and go for the pit stop. There is no mandatory pit stop, as Stewie mentioned, but we did see pretty much everyone but Jordan Daly take a pit stop. So we saw quite a few of the Super Trofeos even take tires because they didn't think the tires would last 75 minutes. So will be interesting to see how all that plays out. We're obviously expecting them to switch over to wet, so I don't think fuel will be an issue because once the rain arrives, they'll be using a lot less fuel anyway. But here we go then. They start to line up 2 by 2 as we come through Le Field now, and the race soon to get underway. 75 minutes of racing, rain imminent within the next 25 minutes at some stage. We have a pro and a silver driver on the front row of the grid. It is the championship leader in the GT3 class who has reclaimed pole position and will be looking to extend their lead over the rest of the pro field here this evening. We're ready for 75 minutes of racing. What does the second round of the Lamborghini Super Cup have in store for us? It's 7:10 in the morning here at Silverstone. The rain is imminent, the green flag is down, and it's a very good start by the looks of it for Nico Kumpu. It's going to be on the outside line, down into turn 1, will not challenge Abeladze as they go in, just tucks in as they run towards the approach of Maggots and Beckett's. Andre Verona looking around Nico Kumpu, trying to see if he can find a way through before they get to the sequence of corners, but not able to do so. And looking back through the field, it seems like everyone's got through turn 1 okay. We've got a couple of cars off, I think, towards the back of the train, but it looks fairly clean so far as they go through Maggots and Beckett's. The 777 is off, I can see at the back. That's one of the Super Trofeo cars. But they have got the car rolling again, and they're not too far off the back of the pack. And Andre Verona's gone wide right at the front of the field. He was trying to get past Nico Kumpu. It hasn't worked out. He has lost the position again. And I believe he's now... Actually, no, that's Basagi. Sorry, not Andre Verona. It was Basagi that jumped Verona on the start. And then Basagi just struggled to be able to retain that second place after they took it from Kumpu. So Kumpu's taken that back and still leads the way in the silver class.
And yeah, you mentioned that was a very clean start. I think we just had this 1 or 2 cars going into Maggots and Beckett's that went a bit right. Probably not even a big contact. And we just see now the 99 maybe gone off track there. And I did actually check the tires of all the cars, and you're right, they're all on dry tires. There's who's that Hutchison trying to make a move on Peters here, and he does indeed get the move done. I don't think... oh, was that actually Peters? I think that was Quantrell? I think so, yeah. Yeah, didn't really fight for that position here as the standings just update a bit on the first lap here, and Bazagi still close to Kumpu. So it looks like these few cars here already making a tiny gap to the, what is that, P5 behind. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they can keep up with P2, because it looks like Abulatsi is just checking out at this point.
A reminder for everyone at home that class position is what's going to be most important throughout this championship. It's how you're doing against your competitors, but you also have to keep in mind that you want to have a good performance overall, because the points are allocated on your overall position in your car class, not your class position. And that's why we saw some different sizes of gaps between all the classes across the point structure. Wolf Matushka's had a good start to his race, and he's got Andy Boardman right behind him. Mikhail Sanstruck has not had a good start. You can see him down there, 26th overall. He's in the mix with some of the AM Super Trofeo drivers at this point in time, trying to find a way through. And I believe that's Lysenko in one of the GT3 AMs who is trying to make his way back up through the field after a poor start as well. So we've got a couple of GT3 cars just trying to make their way through Super Trofeo traffic after an early incident. And I believe Mikhail Sanstruck there has just got past him, Ireland, so that is one less AM Super Trofeo car in his way. But, well, it hasn't been a good start again for the likes of Mikhail Sundström in the Super Trofeo.
Yeah, I just took a look what happened there. He was 3 wide into Abbey in the first lap, and that just slight contact, and he just spun around, which caused him to lose, I think, P2 or P3, where he was in the qualifying. So really unfortunate for him, but by the looks of it, the gaps are not that big yet, so he still has enough time to catch back up as we're watching. Hutchison and Quantel, and who went off track there? It's hard to say, but one of these cars that were fighting there, Will Hutchison, Quantrell, one of these just got bumped off the track when they were 3 wide, and didn't seem to have bothered the other two, because they just keep on going, and actually it did help one of them, making the gap a bit bigger.
You have to be very careful with the Lamborghini. If it does go off track, it's very sensitive to bumps, and if you do go off track and you're on the grass, you want to be quite easy on the throttle, or you'll find yourself going for a spin. Here is Daniel Durrett, by the way. He's in the silver class. He's being overtaken by one of the AM drivers, and that is Hauser there in the 79, getting the move done on Daniel Durrett. Daniel Durrett looking a bit shaky at this point in time. Had a good qualifying session, but hasn't been able to convert that into race pace so far this season. Abeladze still leads out in front, as we expected him to do so. 1.9 second gap between himself and Nico Kumpu. I would expect Abeladze to check out at this point. Ertan, who is probably one of the drivers that could compete with Abeladze for the championship this season.
Sorry to interrupt you there, but we just saw the 402 go off track. I think it was the Stowe corner, and he just lost a lot of positions. I think he's just at the back of the GT3 grid here. I don't know if maybe Jake has a replay for us here what happened, but yeah, he had to let the whole GT3 grid through there. I don't know if there was contact or if he just went off by himself, but yeah.
Yeah, he's down to 21st overall, so that's not good for Andre Verona. And right behind Andy Boardman now, who making his way through some of the Super Trofeo field. Fortunately, not having to make his way through too much of the Super Trofeo field, but also not ideal to have all the AM and Silver cars ahead of them as well that they'll have to deal with later on in the race. As we continue onwards, here is Carlos Corati, who didn't have a good race out at Kyalami. We'll be hoping for much better here on. And is currently sitting 3rd in the Pro Class results at this point in time, but that's 7th overall. Or sorry, 8th overall apparently. The timing sheet has just lied to me. is not going to be good enough to really restart his championship hopes at this stage in the race. He'll have to be working his way a bit further up the field yet, with a couple of silver cars and an AM car up ahead of him as well. They'll have the opportunity to do that if they can find any more pace. The rain is still more than 10 minutes away. The track was green at the start of the race. It's now gone up to fast, so there is more grip coming into the circuit, and that's why some of the cars might look a bit skittish at the moment. The grip is not fantastic out here at this stage. And, well, that grip is going to get a whole lot worse once the rain arrives, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with that yet, as Andre Verona, I believe, has just got past Wolf Matuszka, so he's cleared the Super Trofeo field now. But Joe Gleason is just about 0.2 of a second off the back of Lysenko, who is in one of the GT3 cars. Ooh, Joe, bit out of shape there. And that's one of the things you want to be careful about with the Lamborghini. When it snaps, you have to catch it early, or you will be going for a spin. And, well, if you're a bit too close to the wall, you'll be finding yourself well and truly wedged into the wall.
And we've seen a couple of these slight wiggles of the car, and I think I don't remember who it was. I think it was Hauser who was kind of sliding through the first corner a bit, and it already looked like he was losing the car, but he did hold it. So yeah, this looks not a lot of fun in some of these corners. The car a bit bouncy here and there, but most of these guys keeping it on the track and maybe already mentally preparing for how it's going to get when it's wet. And look at this gigantic gap that the 579 of Abu Dhabi already has, and then after that also the gap from, what is that, P3 to P4. I mean, that's 5 seconds in 10 minutes. Wow.
Yeah, some impressive gaps forming early on in the race, but, well, the rain can change all of that when it arrives. Obviously, it depends on who is going to commit to the wet tyres first, and if they get the transition period right, you can gain a lot of time out there on the track. Looking back to Lars Stephenson, who is just doing well at the moment in the Super Trofeo class. They're leading the Super Trofeo Championship in the AM class, at least, for this period of time, and they're actually just ahead of Mikhail Sanstruck, who's recovering at the moment, although I believe that Mikhail Sanstruck will make quick work of Lars Stephenson. And also behind, we've got Rudy Filmelter, the South African, who finished on the podium in the GT3 AM class. They're making their way back up through, and Mikhail Sanstruck is actually going to have to move over for the GT3 before he gets the chance to have a go at the number 46 car. And that's not ideal for Mikhail, as he wants to, you know, start recovering and building his way back up as quick as he can. And he'll be hoping for a bit of a strategy call difference between himself and Wolf Matuszka today if he wants to get back a lot of that lap time, because on pace, I do feel like Wolf Matuszka is probably quicker over the course of race pace. Here is Danielle Ricciardo in the 931. Currently defending from the likes of Jordan Daly. Hauser has just got past them, actually, as I've just noticed, in the Barwell Motorsport livery. And then Jordan Daly right on the back of them. Jordan Daly, who did improve towards the end of qualifying, but has not had a good start to his race either, Stewie. He's all the way down in 17th overall.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing him off the track, so he might have just been caught up in some accidents where he maybe had to avoid them and slow down a bit. But yeah, he seems to be still at the back of the field here, so he can also catch up. And just something I wanted to mention before, like when we were watching Sundstrom, he might even be using the GT3 as a help to get past the AM car there, using a bit of the slipstream and yeah, just taking the opening as Daly here, going for the move. And it looks like, I mean, they're still side by side, so we're gonna have to wait for the next braking zone. But he might get that move done on the outside. A bit difficult to keep it. Oh no, sorry, he was on the inside. So, or was it actually Duet making the move on Daly? I think I'm a bit confused with these cars.
Daly on Ricciardo it was, and he has got through now.
Oh yeah,
seven.
yeah. very clean overtake there, coming out of Megas and Beckett's, just having more speed. And yeah, making it stick in the next corner.
I don't think Ricciardo put up too much of a fight, and maybe is hoping that, kind of like you said with Sundstrom with the GT3, maybe Ricciardo is hoping that Daly can kind of tow him along a bit, as Jordan Daly's next target in sight is going to be an AM car, which Ricciardo would very much like to be ahead of. So we'll have to see how all of that develops. Meanwhile, in the silver class for the GT3s, the winner from... Actually, no, that's not the winner from last time out. That's actually Matthew Kingston Lee and Lattinen in the 404 going toe-to-toe as well. This is 9th and 10th overall. And actually fighting for what is 5th in class at this stage. And Matthew Kingston Lee, who, if I am remembering correctly, is part of the Jardier Community Team project. If I remember correctly. I hope I'm remembering that correctly. But not doing a bad job in 5th place at the moment in the silver class, and looks like they are holding off Lattinen at this stage. It is worth reminding people we do have live stewarding here today. We mentioned them in qualifying. They were keeping an eye on proceedings there. They are working their way through some incidents that we saw in the first couple of opening laps. I will, of course, let you know when they have anything to forward towards me. And we'll read out any penalty decisions that they do give out. Although it did look quite clean to me, Stewie, at least from the broadcast perspective, at least. You know, it didn't look too bad. There were a few cars that went off track, maybe went around for a spin on lap 1, but I definitely think it was a much cleaner effort than what we saw at Kyalami, which looked quite tame on the broadcast, but was actually a bit messy towards the back end of the pack.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there at Kyalami, but I can imagine, because, yeah, the Kyalami races usually start with a lot of action, with this hairpin turn 1 and then the tight corners going up the hill. And yeah, I think you're right. There were a lot of contacts, but I don't think there were a lot of actual big accidents. So probably just very tight and close racing. A few cars off here and there, as we can also see in the grid. We already have Matushka being in front of, I think, 4 GT3 cars it is, as we see Sundstrom here going for the outside move on the 46 of Stevenson. I don't think he's going to make it stick, especially here on the outside. He's just going to slot in behind him. But he has to be careful, because the 777 behind him just got way closer than he was before. We see the last timing there being 1 second behind, and now it's probably more like 2 or 3 tenths. So going for another move here, still on the outside. It's hard to get the acceleration out of that corner. It's going for the switchback, but the 46 covering the inside. So he has to stay in the slipstream for now. I don't know how strong the slipstream with these Lamborghinis is, but I don't think he's fast enough to make the move into the last couple of corners here.
They do slipstream each other quite well. They are very easy to follow each other. And Mikhail Sanstruck here. This is a bit more difficult than I think Mikhail Sanstruck was probably expecting. To be honest, it looks a bit harder than what I was expecting. And here comes Joe Dormer, by the way. He's right on the back of Mikhail Sanstruck. He's looking for a way around on the outside. And if anyone at home is thinking, oh, well, this is a pro Super Trofeo against an AM Super Trofeo, why doesn't the AM just let them through? You know, this is a fight for overall position in the car class, which is what counts for the points. Les Stephenson is under no obligation to let Mikhail Sundstrom through. And if they finish ahead of Mikhail Sundstrom, then they'll actually score some extra points in the championship. It kind of rewards the lower class drivers for, you know, kind of putting up a bit of a fight with the, you know, pro and silver drivers, and kind of encourages them to get involved a bit more in the racing rather than just letting them through. Mikhail Sundstrom has a bit of a mistake coming towards the end of the hangar straight, and Joe Dorber had a little look, didn't quite commit to it. And I wonder if at this point in time, Stu, if Joe Dorber was just happy to sit behind Sundstrom.
Yeah, I think he's just staying close behind him so he can put some pressure on him, while Sundstrom has to watch the front to not make any big mistakes and maybe brake too late while looking in his mirrors. And it's going to be hard for Sandstrom here to try and make the overtake and at the same time defend from behind, especially when the car ahead is most certainly way slower than him, but it's just, yeah, hard to make that move stick, even if you're in a faster class, because you're both in the same cars, so you really have to pressure the guy ahead to make a big mistake. And if Stevenson is just holding his lines and maybe going a bit defensive, because he also knows that Sandstrom is under pressure from behind, so he doesn't even have to go too defensive here. And it looks like Sandstrom may be trying to go for the inside here, but not enough space. And yeah, we go for another lap, and the positions haven't changed. I think it's gonna be interesting to see if they actually stay in these positions until the rain comes, which in fact has now in the past minutes updated. So I guess in the next 10 minutes we will see the rain. As who's that? Will, I think. Yeah, Will trying to make a move on Peters here. Also 2 separate classes. So I actually didn't realize that these the overall positions here give more points, because I'm always one for letting the faster class by and just taking the slipstream. But of course, if there's overall positions, then yeah, we see these fights where maybe slower cars in front and the car behind just has to try to get by without making any big mistakes.
It definitely does give an incentive to some of the lower class drivers. If they have a particularly good race and they can finish ahead of some of the drivers in a higher class, they get a couple of extra points for their efforts. And it does always throw up an interesting, championship that we have ahead of us, because essentially the amount of points that you get can vary drastically from race to race, and it really will reward that overall position consistency that drivers can achieve over the course of a season. We have Rob Quantrill here at the moment, who has let Jordan Daly pass. Jordan Daly up into 15th overall. We've got Andre Verona in the 402 now wanting to get past Rob Quantrill as well for the Q-Ball Motorsport GT3 Huracan. I believe Verona is going to be on the inside. Are they going to commit here through Maggots and Beckett's? They're going to go side by side. They're going to try it. Fair play to them. They're on the inside line coming into Chapel, and the move is done. Very nicely done between both drivers, side by side through the entirety of Maggots and Beckett's. No contact between either of them, and a great overtake for Andre Verona.
Yeah, he's just slowly working his way back up through the grid now. And yeah, I mean, how many plays did he already make? I think he was around P21, so he already made
21, yeah.
Yeah, so 7, 6, 5. I can't do math apparently, but yeah, he definitely already made a few places, and he still has a lot to go. So watching Hutchinson here behind Kingston Lee, we're seeing a lot of fights between the different classes, which obviously came from the qualifying already being so mixed between these classes. And I think that's actually the first championship where that happens, as Hutchinson here maybe scaring Kingston Lee a bit, going for the inside, but then not committing. But yeah, I think I haven't seen a championship yet, or watched one, where the overall position also counts. So interesting to see these different pace drivers fight with each other.
Yeah, and the important thing is, as long as the defending is fair, there is exciting battles to be watched between drivers of different classes, and we've seen plenty of that. Mikhail Sanstruck is still struggling, by the way, to get past Les Stephenson. That battle hasn't really changed at any point over the last few minutes whilst we've been away.
I think he actually got by.
Oh, has he actually got by now?
I think so, yeah.
I think that must have just updated then, because on my relative he was behind. So yes, that has updated now. Sorry, Mikhail Sanstruck has got past Les Stevenson. That has happened in the last few corners. But we're looking at Mark Peters here. He's got Vlad Will behind him, and he's trying to close down on Hutchinson, who isn't too far up the road as well. And we are starting to see these little groups now, aren't we, Stewie, on the track map, where, there's just little pockets of cars together with each other, that, are just keeping up, staying within their little pack. And here's Joe Dorber, by the way, trying to do what Mikhail Sanstruck struggled to do for quite a few laps now. And Joe Dorber slips up the inside. Bit of a flash of the lights there from the number 46 of Les Stephenson, but the 777 has managed to get their way through. And I think Mikhail Sanstruck will be a bit annoyed with how quick it took Joe Dorber to get past the likes of the 46.
Yeah, but it looked like Joe Dorber was a bit more aggressive in this approach. I believe there was a slight bit of contact, which is why we saw the flashing of the headlights. Didn't seem like a lot, because clearly both cars still stayed on track, but I think Dorber didn't want to deal with what Sundström dealt with following the car for multiple laps. He just wanted to get it over with. And he did, but we're going to have to see if that paid out for him. Maybe there will be a steward report coming in later in the race. For now, at least, he made it stick, and he caught up, or at least is following the next pro cars. And I think I just see Boardman there in the back. Wasn't Boardman also in the front? So I believe something happened to Boardman as well.
Yes, he was only a few seconds behind the likes of Wolf Matuszka, so something has happened to the number 69 at some point. We haven't really been watching what's going on between Andy Boardman and Wolf Matuszka, because there was about a 4-5 second gap between the two of them. They're just running out on their own. But something has happened to Andy Boardman. He hasn't lost too much time, though, from whatever that incident was, because he's only about... what's that, 6-7 seconds off of Wolf Matuszka, so he's only lost a couple of seconds out of whatever it was. Probably gone wide, maybe had a bit of a snap through one of the corners, managed to catch it, and hasn't lost too much time as a result of it. Ooh, that's a late dive from Hauser on Vlad Will, and that could have almost been a disaster down at the club chicane, but manages to keep it firmly out of the rear end of the number 88, and I'm sure Vlad will appreciate the fact that the 79 didn't just completely go into the back end of his car, and they'll continue onwards, trying to catch up to the battle here in front, which involves Matthew Kingston-Lee, Alex Hutchinson, and Mark Peters.
Yeah, and you are talking about the small groups that already showed up here in the grid. Meanwhile, the 579 is kind of in his own group, as we just see the rain switch over, and it kind of came faster than expected. And we can see in the weather app at the top, the rain is only going to get stronger. So I believe, if not this lap, we're going to see the entire grid just go for the tire change in either this lap or the next lap. I don't think these dry tires will hold up for much longer. And as I was saying, the 579, a massive gap to everyone behind. Even the second and third place, who were kind of close together at the start, they also spread out a bit. And it's more of the midfield that are still fighting, while the front has just checked out, and they're doing their own thing there.
Well, we'll have to see how the rain does affect all the drivers out there on the track. You can see the track grip level has gone to greasy almost immediately. So the rain's starting to have effect already. The Lamborghini is not the preferred car to be in when it comes to wet racing. The Evo is much better than the non-Evo. The non-Evo used to be kind of a death trap when it was wet. The Evo is definitely an improvement on that. I have never seen Super Trofeos drive in the wet, as that was direct on Ricciardo into the club chicane. I've never seen the Super Trofeos in the wet before, so this is going to be a bit of a learning experience for me along the way, as we already have a couple of drivers coming into the pit lane. We have Lysenko in, and we also have, who else has come into the pit lane? It's Stefan Van Acken's come in as well, and I believe Les Stephenson. So we've got the Super Trofeo drivers coming into the pit lane first. They've decided to jump the gun and get the wet tyres on early.
Yeah, we've had a couple of cars that essentially just went into the pits immediately when the rain started. They were just like at the end of the lap and just went in directly. And we're seeing in this small group here how much worse the grip has gotten. These cars just don't want to brake anymore. There's no grip in the corners. They almost crashed into each other after Abby. So we're seeing Hauser here also going to the pits. And we do have some penalties that the stewards gave out, and one of these is also for Verona. So maybe he caused his starting position loss by himself.
Yeah, we can have a little bit of a look at that whilst pit stops cycle in and out. We have incident on lap 1, turn 12, involving the 740 and the 99. 15-second penalty for car 740. And that is the AM GT3 championship leader, Kaneko, the Japanese driver. So 740 spun out the number 99 with contact. The place was not given back. 15-second penalty. So that's why Kaneko's got a 15-second penalty to their name. Looking a bit further down, there's been quite a few no further action and racing incidents, which is nice to see. So no penalties coming out for them. The number 79 has a 5-second penalty for a dive bomb on the 931. So that was Hauser on Ricciardo earlier on. That was on lap 5. So dive bomb, overtake with contact, position not given back. The 402 got a 5-second penalty for diving down the inside of the 30 and causing contact as well. So that's where Andre Verona's penalty came from, Stewie. 5-second penalty for an overtake with contact for the 402. And the 402 has also had a warning for causing avoidable contact as well, but no further penalty as it stands. So 3 penalties come out so far, and haven't affected the order of the race too much, but just a couple of drivers getting some slaps on the wrist from the stewards.
Something interesting that's happening at the moment is Abulazzi went into the pits as expected, like 1 lap later than everybody else. But Nico Kumpu stayed out, so he's still driving, while essentially the rest of the grid is going to the pits. Carlos Quarati is also still driving, so these 2 drivers, I guess they think they will still do better with the dries at the moment. We can take a look at the lap times when they finish this lap, although I would expect them to go into the pits now. And do you remember what the gap was? I think it was around 5 to 6 seconds. So yeah, we will see if staying out for 1 more lap paid out for them, as I believe almost the entire grid now has done their pit stop.
Nico Kumpu looks a bit sketchy out there when he goes through some of the corners, by the way. You'll see when he has to put the throttle down through some of the slower corners. The car is not liking the conditions too much, but being out on dry tyres will do that. So Nico Kumpu coming into the stadium section, like you said, staying out that additional lap. Will that, come back to bite them, or will it benefit them? It's something we'll have to see. The interesting thing is with Abeladze having come in and performed that pit stop now is that they have to be careful that they don't get caught up in, in traffic. They do seem to have found themselves a nice big pocket of space at this stage, so that doesn't seem to be a problem for them right now. But it is one of the issues when you do pit first, is that you can sometimes find yourself coming out in traffic and it will slow you down, and that's why a couple of drivers do prefer to stay out an extra lap to try and avoid that issue if they can. Kumpu is into the pit lane, by the way, and Matushka is still going. Has Matushka been into the pit lane? Yes, he has.
Yes.
Yeah, we've got Boardman and Kaneko in the pit lane alongside Kumpu, and I believe we're expecting Quarati to come into the pit lane now, and he does. So that should be every driver now coming into the pit lane to pick up the wet tyres. We'll have to see how the race pans out here, because, I mean, you'll know this plenty, Stewie. Obviously, you race in the Night Owl Championship. Driver's pace can change drastically from dry to wet.
Yeah, I mean, I think I even saw it more in the OTL British GT Championship, where in the dry, in the practice, there were interesting slide there from
Daly.
But nicely caught there. That looked properly scary.
Oh yeah.
Sideways, the snap, and then caught it. And I mean, that is on the wet tires, so maybe not the correct pressure, so the tire's not up to temperature yet, but definitely a bit scary there for him. As I was saying, a lot of drivers that were really quick in the dry. Then the session switches over to the qualifying, and it's raining, and it's just completely mixed up. People at the front that you wouldn't expect. I mean, I don't really know if it's because people are just maybe not comfortable in the rain, or because they didn't expect rain and just didn't prepare for it. But you're right. There can be massive differences in pace depending on the weather. And Bulazzi here I think he actually gained time on P2 because
Bazaghi was ahead of Kumpu anyway, but I do agree. I think he has gained time.
He gained about 4 seconds. He gained about 4 seconds only in the pit stop, because Abulazzi's pit stop was 1 minute 6 seconds, and Bazaghi was 1 minute 10 seconds.
Yeah, and Bazaghi's outlap was 4.2 seconds slower as well, and the pit stop would have contributed to the majority of that, but we'll have to see how that changes. The championship leader for the GT3 Pros, will his pace be affected by the rain? Well, we'll have to wait and see. And here is Tobias Sontag, one of the drivers that finished in the top 3 in the AM class last season in the NSX Super Cup, or Summer Cup, sorry, not Super Cup. And they got the bump up to silver. They're doing pretty well at this stage, 6th overall, and John Aracer has moved themselves up into 3rd in the silver class standings, looking to put themselves on the podium after that win at Kyalami. See if they can extend their lead in the championship. Here is Rob Quantrill against Hauser. 77 versus 79. And this could get touch and go. And Quantrill. Now, did he go wide to avoid an accident there?
It looked like that, yeah. I mean, it looked like Hauser just braked a bit too late, and Quantrill just abandoned the corner and just didn't want to get spun and went wide there. Obviously, still lost the position, but at least he's still in the race here.
So we'll have to see what the stewards think of that, because that was maybe a little naughty from the likes of Hauser in the 79, just going for a bit of dive, and Mark Peters is now behind Rob Quantrill. Tom Bryant, by the way, is behind the scenes, and he's just corrected me on something. Tobias Sontag finished 3rd in silver, not in AM. So just a correction from the NSX Summer Cup. I don't know my own drivers anymore, apparently, across my own championship. So good to know that Tom Bryant's keeping track there. He's on top of everything, and well, we'll see what Tobias Sontag can do out here today. They're 4th at the moment in the silver class, 6th overall. It's not a bad performance for them at this stage. Wolf Matuszka in the Super Trofeo class is still leading the way in the pros, from Andy Boardman, Mikhail Sanstruck, and Joe Dorber. And interestingly enough, Stewie, Les Stephenson, after the pit stops have cycled out for fitting the wet tyres, has found himself behind Van Aken and Gleeson.
Yeah, I think he also had a very bad pit stop and a very slow outlap. So did Gleeson, though. So yeah, maybe they just had a kind of an overlap in the timings and got out together and maybe couldn't make the overtake. But yeah, Stephenson lost a bit of a position there during the pit stops. So we're seeing a big group of cars here. I believe that's lap traffic in there as well. So Sontag and Karate fighting, and then we have 2 STs here in front and behind them, which is obviously making the whole thing a bit harder in the rain. We see Karate here being eager to make that overtake. Gonna see if he's gonna try to outbrake his opponent here in the next corner. We see is that an ST? I think so. Slightly touching the grass, coming back onto the track, and scary situation here for Karate. Luckily, no one got hurt in that, but that was close.
Yeah, we'll see a little bit of a replay here. That is Joe Gleason in that Super Trofeo. Ooh. I mean, that is scary. When a car just comes across the track like that. It can be quite scary, especially when there's a speed difference between the cars of different classes. And well, Karate has managed to find a way past the likes of Joe Gleason, I believe. Yes, he has managed to get past Joe Gleason, so won't be too concerned about him at this stage now, but definitely slightly concerning earlier on. Here is Andre Verona, who's making his way back up through the field after a poor start. Up into 14th place, so 7 places gained on where he was earlier on, down in 21st. And looking to gain a place here on Vlad Will as well.
Yeah, and something I noticed is that the M car of Pothuizen, which one was it that was Farb in the qualifying? I'm not entirely sure, but it seems like during the race these classes have kind of split up again a bit to resemble what their pace should be, as we see Verona here going for the move onto Will and makes it look easy as he's just breaking into the hairpin, going by, and then he's gone. Oh, but Will and with the duet after Verona got by seemed to have a slight bit of contact here. Or was that actually Verona? It wasn't. It's just the 88 being on the outside, not having the correct line, having to lift because of the rain, and then duet misjudging the speed a bit and just hitting him from behind. That hurts, especially when you also hit the wall here. Unfortunate.
It's even a bit more unfortunate for Danielle Durette, because Danielle Durette's got a 5-second penalty for forceful overtake on Danielle Ricciardo, which we saw earlier on the live stream. So 5-second penalty has come the way of Danielle Durette, and it's kind of a bit of insult to injury for Danielle Durette at this stage. But there is still 36 minutes of this race left to go, plenty of time to make up a 5-second deficit. And Danielle Durette will have to do the best job that they can at this stage. Meanwhile, looking at Jordan Daly, up into 10th place overall, still trying to slice his way through some of the cars that were ahead of him. And has got the likes of Hutchinson in the 350 just in front of them right now as they come through. You can see the Vodafone car there of Butizan. And here goes Daly on the inside and through on the 350. And there is Alex
I think they passed the 350 a couple of turns ago already. The timing board just hasn't updated it yet, but Hutchinson is behind Daly since the Stowe corner, I think. And there we go.
We'll see. It has updated now, but anyway, so Jordan Daly up into, well, is in 10th place at this point in time. Matthew Kingston Lee, you can just see there in the background as well, the 555, probably going to look to give Hutchinson some problems as well. And then Andre Verona is just a bit further back from them, the 402, so he's one to keep an eye on. There does seem to be quite a big group of cars in this section of the track all at the same time. And a couple of Super Trofeo cars thrown in there for good measure as well.
Jordan Daly seemed to have done a good job. Oh, as we see Hutchinson here losing it. Lee.
Oh, no.
Ooh. Yeah, Lee was just a bit too close there to fully smash the brakes without losing the car. You could see him trying to avoid it, but it was just a bit too close, and then unfortunately he also...
Yeah.
Oh, he got hit there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's unfortunate for Matthew Kingston Lee. It's also unfortunate for Alex Hutchinson. It's just wrong place at the wrong time, and oof, bit of damage there. Oof,
Yeah.
exit stage right for someone at Maggots and Beckett. I think that was the 402.
4-2. Verona,
It's Andre
yeah.
Verona. Yeah, Andre Verona. Oh, and that's a return to pit lane as well. Did they hit the barrier, I wonder? We'll have to
I mean,
see. There is
the front of
damage
the
on
car.
the car. No, that car's been parked.
I think they did have contact with. Oh yeah. Ooh. I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, here
we see the
go.
replay here of Verona coming into the first corner, and there we see the purple 350
Oh, no.
of Hutchinson standing on the side of the road.
Oh dear.
And yeah, Verona was. I don't think Verona could actually see him because of the car of Kingston Lee, who was kind of blocking the view, and yeah, Verona just trying to avoid that, going on the outside, and then there was a car standing in front of him.
Well, that's going to be one for the stewards to unravel. I'm sure they won't take kindly to that incident at all because I don't know. I mean, make your own thoughts at home, folks. Should Hutchinson have been moving, or should he have waited until the cars have cleared him? The rules say that you must, rejoin the track in a safe manner. You must, remain stationary if cars are coming past you, so that you can be predictable. But we'll have to see what the stewards make of it. Jordan Daly, by the way, has got past Peterson, and he's up into 9th overall now. And Vlad Will is he's had an incident again with the likes of Daniel Duret.
Duret taking a very interesting line there through the first corner, and just cutting back a bit too aggressively, it looks like.
Well, Tom Bryant had told me that the stewards had pretty much caught up a few minutes ago with all of the incidents. Well, they've got a few new ones to have a look at. Alex Hutchinson is going to come into the pit lane, get that damage fixed by the looks of it. Mark Peters, though, in the AM class, sitting 3rd in the AM class at the moment, 15th overall. But they've got company in Lysenko right behind them. It's kind of making their job difficult as well. Running my race number, the number 27. Respect for that. Not doing too bad at the moment. Mark Peters is another South African that didn't have a bad race out at Kyalami either. Had a decent showing as well, like Rudy Filmater. And, Rudy Filmater actually not doing so well in this race, down in 20th position overall. And quite a bit far down in the AM class. I believe they're 7th in the AM class at this stage. So just struggling a bit there in the number 79 at Andrei Lysenko, challenging for the podium position in the AM class at this moment in time. Could just see Mark Peters ahead, but just not able to make the move on him at this point in time. And Mark Peters will want to put that silver car of Vlad Will between himself and Lysenko to just get a bit of a buffer and get himself a few extra points in the championship as well. Half an hour to go here at Silverstone.
And in a few laps, or maybe even this lap, we might even see a far-away fight here, because Will is directly in front of them, as you already mentioned, but in front of Will, we have Control, which is P2 in the M class. So Peters maybe not even too aggressively trying to overtake the 88 here, because if the 88 can catch up to the 77 and they can start fighting, that could make the life for Peters way easier, and maybe even getting a P2 here without having to do too much work for it. Obviously, still having to watch his mirrors for the car behind of Lysenko. But maybe using Will a bit to catch up to the P2 in his class. And as the rain is still getting stronger, it's interesting that the track is still damp. So we already see a lot of these cars struggling a bit with their grip. So I'm not sure if it's gonna get better for the last 30 minutes. It's definitely not gonna be boring, that's for sure. Meanwhile, at the front, I believe Kumpu has slowly caught up to Bazagi here.
Definitely looks like that, doesn't it? And Bazagi now maybe under a bit of pressure, just dismissing the number 23 as they make their way through. That's Hutchins in the Super Trofeo. But yeah, Kumpu maybe just putting a bit of pressure now on the likes of Basagi. And if Kumpu can get a 3rd place overall in this race, or a 2nd place overall, that'll do wonders for them in the championship battle. It'll be a 2nd place overall that'll probably feel like a win, and it will be a win in the silver class if they can hold on to it. And doing very well right now, the mean look on the black Lamborghini as it closes in to the number 8 for Team Ballas. And John Aracer still sitting in 3rd place, just behind Roskam, actually quite a bit behind Roskam. Some significant gaps between some of the silver drivers I've noticed here, with Roskam kind of sitting in a bubble at this point in time. He's got 12 seconds ahead of him and 14 seconds or 15 seconds behind him at this stage. And I mean, how often have you been in that situation, Stewie, where you get into the midway point of the race and you kind of you find yourself in no man's land, and you feel like it's a hot lap session at that point?
We sing, who was that? Lysenko trying to make a move on Peters here, and it certainly didn't work.
That wasn't Lysenko, actually. That was the 742. That was Joe Gleason being lapped by Peters. There was a bit of contact there.
The contact here between the back marker and Peters. Well, at least Peters can continue the fight. He lost a bit of time to Will, but he's still in the fight. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think that most of my races, as we see, small replay here of that contact, I feel like most of my races end up like this. I'm too slow to catch up to the guys ahead and too fast to be caught by the guys behind, not really fighting with anyone and just essentially doing hot laps for around an hour. I really have to think hard to actually think of a race where I had some fights for the majority of the race. But I mean, that's also not easy, just being concentrated for the whole hour and just rolling down the laps every lap, doing no mistakes. But yeah, definitely something I know, and we've seen it develop here for P4, 5, 6 from the start, that these gaps just slowly span out, and didn't look like there were a lot of fights coming up. But Kumpu here, he is definitely not giving up on this P2. He's still behind Basagi, and it does look like he got a bit of a better exit, but I don't think in the rain he can make it stick on the outside. When I see him in the braking, he's probably going to try to brake a bit later. And as expected, not the grip he needs there, and just goes wide. But he's making his presence known and putting the pressure on Basagi, and I guess he's just waiting for the mistake here.
Yeah, putting the pressure on the number 8 car, just trying to force that mistake is what Kumpu will be targeting right here, right now. I think Jordan Daly, I was just looking at, I think he's just made his way past the back marker, actually. I thought he was making a move for position, but it isn't. But here goes Nico Kumpu again. We're coming towards the stadium section this time. Very close, and whoa! Back end steps out a bit. Manages to catch it though. Very well done. And has a bit of traffic to deal with at this stage, but not doing too bad a job with that. Nico Kumpu will now have to get back onto the back, and Mark Peters has caught up to Vlad Will after lost some time earlier on, but definitely seems like the AM driver at this stage in the race is more comfortable out there in the wet conditions than the number 88, and definitely going quicker than them at the moment. Corati, by the way, has just been given a 15-second time penalty, as far as I've seen, so I wonder what that is for. I'll have to have a look at what Connor has just put through the door. Actually, no, it's Glenn putting the notes through the steward's flap for me. And 323 collision with 742. I believe that is Joe Gleason. The 742, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe he left the race already, because I cannot find him here.
Yeah, him and Verona, I believe, have left the race. So contact between the 323 and the 742. 323 takes out the 742 while lapping them. And that's a 15-second time penalty. The 27 will get a 15-second time penalty for taking out the 79. So the 27 is actually Mark Peters. And the 79 was Hauser. So Mark Peters has had a collision with the 79, and that's caused the 15-second penalty. We apparently do have this here, so you can see on the replay here. Yep, goes into the back of him. Ooh. Whoa, that wasn't particularly great of Hauser either, though, reversing on the track. And then we also have a 15-second penalty for car 30, which is Danielle Ricciardo, which is involving the 88. And I think we saw this one earlier on the live stream, but we'll play it again here one last time for you. Yep, and it is exactly the one we saw on the live stream. So Danielle Ricciardo just cuts back over the front of the 88. You did say it was a very strange line at the time. And I think the stewards have kind of agreed with that it was a bit strange from Danielle Ricciardo to try that.
Yeah, and we also had Quantrell, who I think has left the pits already, but he was involved in that four-way battle that we were watching a few minutes ago, and I think he also hit someone in T1, similar to the one we saw before with... what was his name? Volante, I believe. Who hit a car that just spun out and was on the track. He did not abandon his race though. He just went into the pits, went for the repairs, and obviously he's not in this four-way fight anymore, but he is continuing his race. And we're seeing Kumpu again trying to make the moves here. Still hasn't gotten by him, but yeah. He has 20 minutes left, and he's very close behind him. He's
persistent though. He really does want that second place overall, but Bazagi is not keen to give it to him. Oh, getting so close, and Kumpu just running a bit wide there on the exit. Has to be careful not to go too wide, of course, and risk potentially an investigation for track limits abuse. One of the things that the stewards are aware of in ACC is that if you have had a race that has started in the dry and then goes into the wet conditions, the track limit system doesn't really work the way it should. And the stewards are fully aware of that, so they do occasionally monitor cars that they believe are maybe taking a few too many leniencies with track limits, and they will apply post-race penalties if they have to. So something the drivers are aware of and do need to keep in mind. And I think Danielle Ricciardo has actually just received another penalty, if I'm not mistaken. He did have 15 seconds. He's now got 20 seconds on there. The 555 has been given a warning, by the way. And the 555 car is Matthew Kingston Lee. Contact with the 350, making no attempt to slow down. But there was no gain of position, so the stewards have just allocated a warning for the 555. But yeah, a few more slaps on the wrist out there, Stewie. At the moment, it does seem like a couple of the drivers just struggling to keep some of those overtakes and some of those moves, as clean as they should be.
And I'm just watching the 35 of Baranowski slowly driving into the pit lane with his indicators on, so something must have happened to him. We don't see any contact here, so I guess he just lost it on his own and maybe hit a wall. He did not return to pits immediately. He just slowly drove on the track, letting everyone by. But it does look like for him the race is properly over now, as Ricciardo and Peters are in a fight here. And I think that's the group where we saw the four-way fight before. So these two are still fighting. Obviously for Ricciardo, he now has
Whoa. Ooh, sorry to cut you off, Stewie, but Kumpu trying to go around the outside of Club and not quite being able to do so. Bazagi has held on And it's getting very, very close between these two at this point in time for second place overall. And you were just talking about Baranowski. He has come back out of the pit lane. So, although I don't think it was I don't think he took tyres. I think he's just taken some fuel or repaired some damage, maybe.
And the car was definitely damaged. Didn't look too bad because his steering wheel was still straight, but he was definitely driving very slowly. But yeah, he's going on even on the last place. I think he's 2 laps down by now, so he must have had some bigger issues before this incident. And yeah, Bazagi, he just doesn't want to give any space to Kumpu. He's just taking the inside line in every corner, forcing Kumpu to take the outside, which in the rain works really well because there's just no grip on the outside, at least in most of these corners, and making the life for Kumpu very difficult here. Luckily, the gap from Kumpu to Roskam is quite big, so Kumpu can actually go for these risky moves that probably lose them a bit of time. But yeah, he has a lot of space behind, so there's nothing to worry about losing the position here, at least as long as the fights are clean. So I'm pretty sure we're gonna see a few more of these attempts over the next 17 minutes.
I've just been told, by the way, that the incident we showed between Daniel Duret and Vladville is not actually the one that gave out the 15-second time penalty. That one is apparently still under review. This incident, this is the 15-second time penalty that Daniel Duret got. This is why.
Yeah, but we saw this one as well.
We did see this one as well, but we just need to make sure that we get it correct. Which one has been a penalty has been given out for? But the other one that we saw down towards Luffield is still under review, so we're still awaiting the verdict out on that one. But the battle continues between Bazagi and Kumpu. They've got Andy Boardman in their way now in the Super Trofeo class, and I always get the feeling that if you're in a different car class and you see 2 drivers coming up behind you, you know, really, really going at it, the last thing you want to do is get caught in the middle of it. And Andy Boardman, clearly moving over to the side of the track, had his indicator on telling them which way he was going to go, and making sure that he's not going to get in the way of this battle. And I think a rather sensible thing to do from Andy Boardman.
Yeah, especially when you see the positions P2 and P3 coming up in your mirrors. Obviously, you don't want to impede anyone's race, even if they're a bit further behind. But yeah, especially when you see the leaders coming up, you just go out of the way, wave them goodbye, and yeah, let them go on with their fight. And but yeah, massive respect here to Kumpu, because staying so close behind another car for what must have been 4, 5, 6 laps by now in the rain, and yeah, not making any big mistakes while also trying to pass actively. That's an easy task here, but he's managing it. Although I think that's one of the first times we see him not have a better exit out of Magazine Beckett, so Bazagi may be a bit happy that he can actually take a normal line through the next corners if he can still remember them. It looks like he actually can. I
think with Nico Kumpu as well, between both of them, it's been very impressive that there hasn't, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, your memory might be a bit better than mine, there hasn't really been contact between either. Kumpu just, I think, got a bit out of shape, actually, coming down into Vale, and might have lost a bit of time, but I don't think there's any contact between either of them at any point when they were going side by side multiple times. Oh, there goes Kumpu again. And we're seeing a replay here. Yep, just half slide there, caught the car. Very well done, but then it's at the end of the Hamilton straight here. When we come down towards Abbey, we just see him go... Does he just not really get the car turned in enough and he just goes wide? Yep, looks like it. So Nico Kumpu maybe struggling a bit now.
It looks like his tires are just slowly giving up here with the grip, although the second slide could have been because he was a bit on the curb on the outside. And yeah, in the rain, as soon as you touch any of the curbs, the cars just kind of do whatever they want. They become very hard to control. And yeah, that might have just led to him keeping the wheels straight for a bit longer because he didn't want to turn in on the curb and then not making the corner anymore. Meanwhile, the 579 still ahead, and I think that was the 99 was just in the grass here. Seemed to not be with any other car, but he was off the track. But yeah, Abulatsi just doing his race. He has a gigantic gap. I believe it's 50 or I think it's around 30 seconds he has managed to pull out. So for him, the rain didn't really affect his pace compared to the other drivers. He's just building the gap, making it bigger every lap, and yeah, 30 minutes to go, and he just has this in the back.
Yep, 13 minutes to go. Not long now. Wolf Matushka looks like he's got his second win of the season in the bag as well. But you do have to get to the end. And he'll just be hoping to slowly cruise this towards the end now. Has a significant gap over the likes of Andy Boardman. It's about 24 seconds, give or take, between the 25 and the 69. Andy Boardman will be happy to get a second place on the board, though. Oh, that was the 54. Oh, that's happening. Who has already gone off beforehand. Just parking the car, trying to find, I think, a good re-entry point, and just getting a bit too aggressive on the throttle and almost spinning the car again. Not exactly what you'd want to do. Here is Latinum, by the way, who has been caught by Jordan Daly. It's taken a while for Daly to reel in the Finnish driver, but he has finally done so.
We just had another car off track, by the way. The 30 was off track at the exits of Maggots and Beckett. And that is Giraffe. So I believe Porthuizen here gaining another position.
Well, Jordan Daly has managed to find his way past Lattinen. That puts him up to 8th overall with about 11 and a half minutes left, roughly. He has enough time to catch up to the back of Sontag and possibly make a move. So 7th place for Jordan Daly. You know, it could be what he's looking at here today. It would be... Actually, what would it be? Although he is within 15 seconds of Quarati's penalty at the moment. So he could actually jump up to 6th overall if he can get past Sontag. And that would be quite beneficial for the likes of if Jordan Daly. If he could take a 3rd place in the Pro Class, 6th overall, would help his championship efforts considerably. I think Nico Kumpu, by the way, has regained his composure a bit, but he is still 2.5 seconds behind the likes of Basagi, so he's got work to do if he wants to try and catch up towards the end of the race. And we're not going to see the result of the change of weather, Stewie, but within the next half an hour, it is apparently going to stop raining.
Yeah, and Johnny Razor, I think he just made the pass on Wascam, and it almost looked like it was a back marker, but I'm pretty sure he made that pass because the timing when it updates...
It was on Roscam. That was the 96 that he has got past.
Okay, then the timing just takes a bit to update, but yeah, that he made that look very easy. Well, I mean, we barely noticed it as an overtake, but yeah, he made that pass, and the 35 of Baranowski was doing the same thing again this lap. I just noticed him being off track there on one of these straights, so Baranowski just not having a good race here. I think that is like the 3rd or 4th time he's struggling there to keep the car on track. And here we see Ricciardo trying to defend from Peters, although Peters has a 15-second penalty.
Yeah,
so
15 seconds, so that is unlikely to change. Even if Peters gets past, it is unlikely that he will finish ahead of Ricciardo. So That battle is kind of just one out of pride, I think, more than anything. Ooh, drive-through penalty for Rob Quantrill in the number 77. That is for an unsafe rejoin on lap 23, turn 1, involving car 963 as well. So, Rob Quantrill.
That was the incident I was talking earlier. Sorry to interrupt you there, where he just hit a car that was spinning before and just standing on the track.
There we go. So, unfortunate for Lysenko there to get caught up in that. But Rob Quantrill has been given a drive-through penalty. The first drive-through we've seen in the race. So we have seen a few 15-second time penalties being given out, but overall only one drive-through so far here today. Hopefully it is the last one we see out here today, and everyone has been more behaved, should we say, than they were at Kyalami. It definitely seems that after the first round, everyone's kind of got an idea for everything now, and lap 1 was definitely much, much cleaner. Here is Mikhail Sanstruck, who is looking to finish 3rd in the Super Trofeo class and 3rd in Pro. He's it's been difficult for Mikhail. 2 races, 2 poor starts, and he'll be hoping that his luck does turn around in round 3 at Spa, so that he can try and challenge Wolf Matuszka for the win in the Super Trofeo class. But a good recovery nonetheless, I think, after the poor start he had today. 3rd, probably the best he could hope for if Andy Boardman didn't make a mistake, and 7 minutes to go, so it's in 3rd place. Probably the best that he could have had out of this race, and I don't think he'll be too disappointed in that, but might be a bit disappointed with how the start of the race went.
Yeah, for sure. But as I said, impressive comeback here. I think also Daly, who started on... I think he also had an incident at the start with this massive comeback. Portuisen here, still far ahead of the next car in the M class, but holding his lead that he got from the qualifying, kind of just bringing it home. P10 as an M, that's still a great result for him. I don't think he will be too unhappy with that. And I'm just looking at Kumpu, who, after his slight mistake there a few laps ago, hasn't really caught up to Bazagi. So maybe it was his tires that kind of gave up there a bit, and he had to slow it down, because he did look faster in the laps that we watched him. I guess he will just try to bring it home safe now with P3 and finish his race.
Just looking a bit further back, Kumpu dropping off slightly from Bazagi now, doesn't seem to have been able to keep the pace that he had earlier. John Aracer, by the way, is up into 2nd. We saw that earlier on where he got past Roskam. I would say he'll be happy with that result today. He picked up 1st place last week at Kyalami. 2nd place here today is what he's on course for. Very good job indeed. And Martin Putisen as well in the 273. Very, very good performance from them. They're in 10th place overall, leading the AM class at this moment in time out on the track. And they finished 3rd in Kyalami, so that will add to a good tally of points for them. And Masatoshi Kaneko and Rudy Filmoter are both not having great races either, so that will kind of just bolster Putisen's opportunity to lead the championship after this race. And it kind of does just show how, the championship point system, it will reward consistency, and it's going to be something that the drivers are going to have to work on, really, is trying to find a consistent finishing position within their class and overall in general to maximize the amount of points they can get every week.
And I was actually a bit surprised there to see someone pass Sundström until I looked at the timing sheet and saw that it was a GT3 just catching up from behind. But then we did see Peters make the move on Ricciardo. Obviously, we talked about it already with his 15-second penalty. More of a thing of a pride to just finish in front. However, he is still catching. I mean, maybe catching up to Duret and Will. So maybe it was also that Ricciardo was slowing him down a bit, and he just wanted to get into the gaps of the cars ahead. And I'm not entirely sure how that would work out with his 15-second penalty. But yeah, he just wants to go as fast as possible to be closer to the cars ahead. And yeah, Ricciardo didn't really fight him a lot for that. Taking a look back at our leader of this race, who has been pretty much flawless with a very fast pit stop, no mistakes, just driving the race, and in the end, very likely being rewarded for that.
Yeah, but I'd say has really come into this championship and thrown down the gauntlet. And it looks like it's going to be 2 wins from 2 for the 5-7-9. I'm also looking through, and I think it's going to be a fastest lap as well. So it looks like it's going to be back-to-back hat tricks for the 5-7-9. And the question will be, can anyone stop them this season? I did say earlier on, I think Atabek Ertan might be the only one. Oh, is the commentator's curse coming out right at the end of the race? He said no mistakes. And then all of a sudden, just a bit wide. But it looks all under control. And yeah, Atabek Ertan not here tonight. I think legitimately the only driver in the pro class that could maybe challenge Abeladze on a consistent basis. And them not being present here tonight, it has just looked like a masterclass from the 5-7-9. And as we look back at Mikhail Sanstruck, just trying to get his way to the end of the race, he's just been overtaken by Matthew Kingston Lee in the 55. So that's Matthew Kingston Lee up to 20th overall. Not been a great race for him here today. He'll be looking for a much better outing in a week's time at Spa. It'll be very interesting to see these cars at Spa as well. The Lamborghini does run well at Spa if you have a decent setup for it. The Super Trofeos go there in the Real World Super Trofeo series as well, so they're very well accustomed to the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. And it will be exciting to see how all the cars develop there. I believe we'll have Jesse Lee in the commentary box alongside me for that race. We'll have to see what the future does hold, but this is the final lap of the race. Abeladze now just making his way around the circuit, can afford to take his time on the final lap and just make sure that they get the car around nice and comfortably here. Doesn't need to take any risks at all in this race. And it has been a super performance from the 5-7-9, hasn't it, Stewie?
Yeah, it has. I mean, I mentioned it before, but yeah, just especially with these changing conditions, getting the tires right when the rain is starting in the middle of the race and then getting stronger. Yeah, just getting the pressures right so that the car holds out until the end, because with these 1 hour and 15-minute races, I think they pitted at around the 25-minute mark, or was it a bit later? So it was, yeah, 45 minutes on these tires, and it does look like they're losing a bit of grip now, but he's still holding it together. So are most of the other cars behind him, and yeah, he's just on his last victory lap, all alone on the track, no car behind, no car in front, just clean air, and going into the last section of the track here, the left turn, the right turn, then back on the straight, and he's gonna be very happy with this result as we see him turn on the straight and finish this race on P1. And yeah, there we see him. Looked like he was going for a slight victory spin, but it might have just been the car. And I would say winning with a massive gap to P2.
Yep, so Abeladze takes the pro win and makes it a hat trick as well. Back-to-back hat tricks, in fact. And we look further down the field to see what is going on. Bazagi is in second. They're about to cross the line. And here is Nico Kumpu, who will win the silver class and will take an overall podium as well to boot. A fantastic drive from Nico Kumpu and lovely flash of the lights across the line. Very happy with that. Will be the number 6. Eraser will pick up second in the silver class. And Roskam here has just got Quarati behind. It's not really going to make a difference because of Quarati's penalty. Jordan Daly, by the way, hasn't managed to close in on Tobias Sontag, so he's going to finish the race in 7th place as long as he can remain within 15 seconds of Quarati's time penalty, which he should be able to do so. But here is Roskam to round out the silver podium. Will take a 5th place overall. Very well done by the Belgian. And a nice haul of points for them as well. Martin Putisen has taken, or is going to take, the win in the AM class. All the other AM cars have crossed the line already, so that position is guaranteed. And it'll be a 10th place overall for the AM class driver, and that is a very, very good performance out here today with changing conditions as well. A solid performance, and a well-deserved top 10 in the overall finishing standings.
Yeah, Puthuisen obviously as an M in the top 10 overall. Great result for him, and Matushka with a massive gap. So a lot of these drivers just showing a very strong performance here. We've seen a lot of interesting moves, and obviously the rain making it a bit interesting. Some of these cars clearly didn't handle that well. But overall, I think that was, considering the circumstance, quite the clean race, especially the start. And yeah, I mean, as you said, probably next week it's going to be Jesse, but I wouldn't be sad to be watching these cars go around Spa.
Well, if you want to tune in to the broadcast, it will be on in exactly a week's time from now. We will be at Spa-Francorchamps for round 3 of the Lamborghini Super Cup. In the meantime, though, if you are interested in any RCI live streams before that happens on Thursday, we will have the continuation of the GT4 Championship. And I believe they're going to Donington Park for round 4 of that championship. We have the Friday championship as well, the Endurance Championship that we're running on Friday evenings. They will be taking up for round 5, I believe, of their season. And that will be at Bathurst, Mount Panorama. So that's going to be an early morning race as well, 3 a.m. in the morning. So it's going to be dark. There's going to be a lot of cars, and it's a 2-hour race at Bathurst. Look forward to it on Friday evening. And then on Saturday, we have the continuation of the Night Owl Championship. We should have a live stream. Actually, no, we don't have Night Owl this week.
Night Owl.
It's the bye week. It's the bye week because we have the Endurance World Challenge this Saturday instead, and it's the 12 hours of Donington Park. I just remembered that before you reminded me, Stewie. So yeah, we don't have Night Owl this week. We didn't have a live stream last Saturday just gone by. Unfortunately, we had a bit of a broadcaster emergency, and we weren't able to live stream the race. But it should be back in 2 weeks' time, and they'll be at Zolder on October 9th, and we'll hope that we will have an EWC live stream for the 12 hours of Donington, following all the RCI motorsport teams in and around the splits, but we'll have to wait and see what develops on that front. Big thank you to our partners, obviously Race Department, AK Informatica, Driver 61, Fanatec, and Sim Racing GP. Race Department helped us get off our feet. If you're interested in any Assetto Corsa modding content, or you want to know about all the news going on in the world of sim racing, you can go and check out Race Department. Obviously, AK Informatica, we run our races on their servers. Driver 61, if you want to win races like Abelanza, you can go get yourself some coaching at Driver 61. It costs $10 to get access to the Sim Racing Academy, and you can get 25% off your access to the Sim Racing Academy by using the discount code in the description below. and get yourself signed up and, get yourself some coaching from some professional racing drivers that are very, very good in the sim. Fanatec, if you want to get some Fanatec gear, some new sim racing gear, and support RCI without spending an extra penny, you can do so with our Fanatec affiliate link. And then Sim Racing GP, if you're looking to host your own community and to get involved in the spirit of sim racing, well, you can check out Sim Racing GP. Some fantastic tools over there to go and host your own community on Race Room, Assetto Corsa, or Assetto Corsa Competizione. So do go and check them out. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in tonight. And of course, we hope to see you back in a week's time. We hope to see you in all the other live streams that we'll have going on throughout the week as well. But from myself, from Stewie Harmon, from Jake Boswell behind the cameras, and all the stewards who've done a fantastic job here this evening, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in a week's time.